Hi, thank you for clicking on this video and giving a brand new booktuber a chance. My name is Shelby and this is Shelby Reads. I'm a femme lesbian. I have a wonderful butch wife. We've been together for almost 13 years. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Do all the things if you want to hear more about sapphic books, because that's all we do on this channel. This video is going to be different for a lot of reasons. Number one, I'm trying to film on my iPad. This is the third different filming thing I've tried. You guys don't care, but if I'm not looking directly at you, sorry. Also, we will not be doing what I do in my normal reviews where I go chapter by chapter and I do all of the spoilers. This is going to be more of a low-key discussion about this book while I'm doing makeup and stuff. So if I'm looking down over here, it's because that's where the mirror is. Today, I am going to be talking about The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I finally read this book because I bought it at a thrift shop, and I have a lot to say, obviously. Before we get started, I would like to give the disclaimers. Number one, this review is not for authors or stans/fans of this author's work. If you are very attached to this book and you are unable to receive constructive criticism in a slightly angry-ish, depending on where we get way, I'm not angry right now, but you never know. You should probably just not watch this video. You should probably not watch this video and you can watch something else. I have some wonderful reading wrap-ups that are mostly positive usually if you're interested in that. Number two, this review will contain spoilers. This one will not contain all of the spoilers, but enough that you will have major plot points ruined for you, including the ending, if you watch this. So again, watch at your own discretion. Number three, I am not bashing sapphic books. I love sapphic books. I love reading sapphic books. I also believe that we have the right to have varying qualities of sapphic books, obviously, because why should there only be good ones? But also as a lesbian and someone who's affected by, the narratives that people write, I have every right to critique these works. And even if I wasn't, I still have the right. Everyone can get on the internet and review whatever they want. Number four, this book makes me angry. I usually put this disclaimer on other books. This book does make me angry, but not nearly as angry as some of the other books. But it does make me angry. It does get me going. If you don't want to see potentially a 31-year-old lesbian getting mad on the internet, then don't watch my channel. I'm going to read the synopsis to you. This is a very popular book though, so I can't imagine too many people who haven't heard of this book. But just in case. Aging and reclusive Hollywood icon Evelyn Hugo is finally ready to tell the truth about her glamorous and scandalous life. But when she chooses unknown magazine reporter Monique Grant for the job, no one is more astounded than Monique herself. Why her? Why now? Monique is not exactly on the top of the world. Her husband has left her and her professional life is going nowhere. Regardless of why Evelyn has selected her to write her biography, Monique is determined to use this opportunity to jumpstart her career. Summoned to Evelyn's luxurious Manhattan apartment, Monique listens in fascination as Evelyn tells her story, from making her way to Los Angeles in the 1950s to her decision to leave show business in the 80s, and of course the seven husbands along the way. Evelyn unspools a tale of ruthless ambition, unexpected friendship, and a great love. Monique begins to feel a very real connection to the legendary star, but as Evelyn's story nears its conclusion, it becomes clear that her life intersects with Monique's own in tragic and irreversible ways. Now, from the synopsis, this book seems like it would be right up my alley, honestly. Unfortunately, the whole thing fell flat for me, and that's kind of being generous in certain areas. I have some major issues with this book that we will be discussing in this video. Before I start putting makeup on and it feels less serious somehow, I would like to address the elephant in the room. I know that the author is a Zionist. I didn't learn that until after I got the book thrifted, but I do know that now. She's mentioned on lists on TikTok loads of times, but I decided to dig up what actually was the cause of her being on the list, and she posted a pro-Israeli thing on her Instagram story a while ago. And while we're here, I just want to make it 1000% clear, Zionism will not be tolerated here. We are pro-Palestine here. If you don't like that, get out. I don't want to hear from you. Your opinion on this is not needed. Oh, the other elephant in the room that I want to clear up. I know that she came out as bisexual recently. I'm not surprised by this. I'm not. There are some older videos though that I might have linked as resources for you guys for a certain section of this video that might refer to her as straight. Please remember that these videos came out before she was out, and therefore ignore that piece of the conversation, please. You can't retroactively go through every single video about her on the internet and be like, but she's bisexual. It's just how time works. My Halloween headband is broken, so we're using my old school pink one for today. Also, guys, tell me if my hair looks good by the end. I'm gonna put some hair oil in it too, but I'm trying new products, but they're expensive, and I'm I don't want to like them, but I think I do. So I'm going to talk about first like the racism in this book, and I'm not going to be the most detailed person about it ever because look at me. Like, it's not my spot. I am going to link a ton of videos about the racism in Evelyn Hugo, and someone has a full-length YouTube video I will be linking, and there are a couple of TikToks that I will also be linking that are talking about it. They have a like Black perspective and a Latina perspective, and I think that that's really important. So as a white person, when you notice racist stereotypes, I mean, I have worked hard to try and learn how to be anti-racist, but I'm still always learning because that is part of the journey, you know? But when you notice it like right out the gate, like in my opinion, it has to be like pretty egregious. Like it has to be like the most stereotype that has ever been stereotyping. You know what I mean? Like some things are more subtle. This was not in any way, shape, or form. So there's been a lot of like really good conversations that are about who should be telling certain POC stories. And obviously it shouldn't be the white people who have never experienced what they're talking about. And I don't think that that means that as white people, that means we completely remove people of color from our stories altogether, period, because obviously that's also not acceptable. But I do think it means listening to the voices who are telling you no, who are telling you, hey, maybe slow down. Hey, maybe you don't have the range. And honestly, I'm part of a bunch of other marginalized communities, but let's keep it brief. I'm a lesbian and also I'm disabled. And I think sometimes people write us offensively too and they don't have the range, you know, and there's always kind of this urge to be like, well, stop writing us then. But at the same time, like it's a complicated issue and I think it's okay to say that. Okay, so first I want to bring up the Latina issue, the Latina issue. Evelyn is Cuban, but as a lot of us know, Cubans can be white. Cubans can be white. That nuance is not discussed. That nuance is not discussed in the slightest. And like, that's kind of a problem, you know? Also, she's clearly white passing enough that even the like Latina maid she has at one point doesn't know that she's a Latina. She doesn't know. Also, I'm sure you guys think that this looks crazy, but I promise it works so good. It looks so good. So aside from the kind of like spicy Latina stereotype that I feel Evelyn is sometimes kind of lumped in with, which as we all know is like a huge problem. Also with Evelyn's character, she is very sexualized, and I kind of feel that part of that is like a triple whammy. Like she's a hot woman, she is a Latina, and she is bisexual. Now, everybody knows slutty bisexual stereotypes, and they're just like not fair. And I feel that the author was trying to provide nuance, but it is completely lost in translation. One of the other issues, in my opinion, one of the main issues, is that she will really only have one important character from each marginalized identity, and then everybody else she doesn't think about the way she's presenting them to the audience. So Evelyn is the only Latina who is not a maid, and I am not even kidding you. And that's harmful. Like you couldn't have written another character, you couldn't have like thought about it more. I don't know. Like it just, we're also now going to talk about the Black problem also. So Monique is mixed race, the journalist that Evelyn wants to do her memoir, her biography or whatever. And it feels weird for a number of reasons. Number one, like Monique likens her experience as a mixed race woman to Evelyn being bisexual. And I just don't really feel like that would happen because they're not equivalents in any way, shape, or form. And I think a lot of people have pointed that out. This brush sucks, so I'm gonna have to go over it. And actually, as a white lady, I would like to bring up that I think it's part of a larger issue where white women, white people in general, honestly, but you know, I mostly hang out with women, so I feel like it's fair to say, feel that they have to link their own marginalization to someone else's in order to have empathy. And that's not healthy or good. Like you don't have to make it about yourself to care that someone else is experiencing oppression, guys. You don't. You don't have to do that. And obviously the character who said that isn't white, but like the author is what I'm saying. I'm saying that to me, it feels like it came from Taylor Jenkins Reid specifically. Also, spoilers, major spoilers. I already warned you guys, but still. Evelyn being like, the reason I picked you is actually mostly because my BFF, Harry, my gay BFF, killed your dad because he was drunk driving with him. and then I covered it up so that Harry's legacy would be great, and you grew up without a dad. Okay, so we have to add some like fucking black trauma for no fucking reason. Like, I didn't feel that that helped the story. I felt like it made Evelyn kind of just straight up evil. I can't even lie to you. Again, like, we as white women need to be thinking about whose stories we're telling and why. Like, literally, why? And most of the time, I honestly felt like Monique and Evelyn were made non-white was to try and make them more interesting because the substance was not there. And I'm not saying that it couldn't have helped more, but I felt that because it was kind of written poorly, it made it worse. It's uneven, I know. Leave me alone. The men learn we can shapeshift. They're going to tell the church. So another just question I have about the narrative, I guess, is why is Evelyn a Latina at all? Because a lot of her struggle doesn't really have anything to do with it, because yeah, it is a very unique experience to be passing and then to get away with it in old Hollywood. But I remember that somebody said that she was kind of based off of like a certain actress, but she came out more like the white actresses that she was also based on. And I would agree with that, because the Latina actress she is partially based on got like facial surgery to fit in and to blend in, and Evelyn didn't have to do any of that. Like, it wasn't actually actively a part of her struggle. You know what I'm saying? Also, I felt that a lot of her struggles were actually most of the time against misogyny, not necessarily being a Latina. Like, yes, it's really shitty that you have to hide your ethnicity in order to make it in old Hollywood. I agree. I agree with that. However, again, I don't feel like it was written in a way that like made it actually really part of the problem here, you know, like narratively part of the issues that she was majorly facing. And pretty much the only thing I liked from the racism discussions in the book was Evelyn saying, I'm the person who disconnected myself from my heritage, and I did it willingly. And on one hand, because of who she is as a character, I agree. Yeah, I do think she did it to herself. I do think that. But it's because of how she was written, and therefore I don't feel like it encapsulates passing women of color's experiences very well. Like, I've read other books where this is done so much better that like it was not good. Okay, now we're moving on to the LGBT issues, which I feel I can speak upon with more authority. Again, if I'm fumbling with my words about the racism stuff, beat me down in the comments. I'm sorry. Like, I am trying, but I'm also trying to like be nuanced and thoughtful while also not making myself like an expert about this, because I'm not an expert. Guess we're doing eyeballs next. Okay, so I feel that there was a distinct biphobia issue, not just like it was in the narrative, but not necessarily on purpose. You know what I mean? Because there was like discussions about biphobia. Oh great, I love when this happens. So one of my main problems with like some of the biphobia narrative is that like, while yes, lesbians can be biphobic, and I am saying that we can be loud and proud, okay? We can. I'm not denying it. I take responsibility for some of the stuff our community does, okay? Even though lesbians can perpetrate biphobia, again, I am saying that we do sometimes. Who is the number one perpetrator of that, though? Straight men. So why is the discussion primarily around lesbians again? And I think we can have productive conversations about it without it devolving into lesbophobia, but a lot of times it does. It does devolve into lesbophobia. And I feel that the same thing happens in our community when trans people are like, hey, sometimes certain lesbians can be transphobic, and then everybody makes big sweeping generalizations that all lesbians are transphobic. Like, do you hear yourself? Do you hear yourself right now? Like, you guys don't like to be stereotyped either, and neither do we, you know? Like, you've gotta like think about what you're saying about everybody in the conversation, you know? I'm trying to do a halo eye and I'm having a hard time today. Also, like, pitting lesbians and bisexuals against each other doesn't do anything for the community. I put glitter way too much. I meant to only do it in the middle. Now I'm gonna have to go back over. Jesus. See, that's why I don't do halo eyes, guys. Like, by saying that lesbians are the biggest perpetrators of biphobia is just one, inaccurate, and two, like, it gets again into like lesbophobe territory. Now I don't have enough glitter. My life, terrible. I'm not a beauty guru, guys. Don't get up in here about it. I am experiencing a lot of fallout today, though. I don't normally with this palette, so it's kind of pissing me off. So that just brings me to Celia being biphobic and misogynistic, obviously. In one of their fights, she's fucking awful. I'm not gonna lie and say she wasn't, because she was. She was being biphobic and misogynistic. I will not lie. I will not lie. The slut shaming, not necessarily okay. Like, Shelby, why are you saying not necessarily? And it's like, because the other issue is, what was the fight about, guys? The fight was about Evelyn fucking cheating. So, again, slut shaming, bad. Bad. Slut shaming, bad. But it also goes with, like, the biphobic stereotype. Like, why is a bisexual person writing this? It didn't really feel like, to me, it was subverting the bisexual expectation stuff. Like, I want to talk about the stereotypes that I feel like this book hit, which included sleeping her way to the top, which is like a misogynistic stereotype, but I also just feel like when it's combined with bisexuality, it becomes even fucking worse. Let's just keep it 1,000. You know, there's also just the, you know, biphobic stereotype of cheaters, you know, bisexual people are cheaters, yada yada. And like, I don't feel like this book helped, because just because she did it for them, we will get to that, does not mean that she actually did it for them. Because she didn't. Spoiler alert. Why is this eye coming out prettier? You can't tell on camera, but it is. Damn. Get me angry. The good part about being goth, though, and wearing glasses, because I have to wear glasses or I'll kind of die, is that if I mess up, people can't really see it, which is like beautiful, you know? Also, I feel that this book really goes with kind of the stereotype of like bisexual fuck women but they marry men, because like, even, okay, the actual narrative, she doesn't marry that many guys because she wants to, right? But like, Evelyn literally says to Celia at one point, like, I can just go back to marrying men and my career will be fine and I'll be fine. And we're going to talk about that in a second, because, oh, also like one of her husbands, who ends up being her ex-husband, again, spoiler, who was a director that she married, you know, found like her love letters to Celia and was being lesbophobic. We'll get to it. And also biphobic at the same time, because it was completely erasing her bi identity. And yet I still feel like, at least in the fandom of this book, it does not get nearly as much smoke as Celia gets. And that's ridiculous, because cis straight men are the ones who have all the power. Like, I don't understand. I want to get my glasses back on as fast as possible. This makes me feel so insecure. So one of the other issues I wanted to talk about is her ex-husband, who was her husband at the time, who she didn't really marry for love, but she liked him enough and she wanted to, so she did. He finds her letters, he freaks out, and then he calls her the D slur. And like, I feel that the author was going for like, this is a moment of bi erasure. I'm like, that's not what this was giving off. And the reason is, like, if it could have been done in a different context and it could have been done better. But instead she did it this way, and it instead just felt really lesbophobic from both characters, because he calls her the D slur. And then instead of like being upset, you know, and she does try to explain she's bisexual. She does try, but at the same time, like, girl, you did not try hard enough. She gets upset that he calls her the D slur, and she gets really hung up on it. She goes like, I am not D slur. Like, she says it. I'm gonna try to find it. Fuck this, honestly. Okay, here we go. We're gonna read it. We're gonna read it together, because this pissed me the fuck off. So he said, what I can't believe is that you're D slur. She's getting angry. So I closed my eyes, my anger burning so hot inside me that I needed to check out of the world to momentarily gather myself in my own body. I am not a D slur. And he's like, these letters beg to differ. And then she tries to explain that she is bisexual. So, and he's like, Evelyn, if you have sex with a woman, you're a lesbian. Don't be a self-hating lesbian. That's not becoming. She's like, I don't care what you think is becoming. I don't hate lesbians at all. I'm in love with one, but I loved you too. And I'm literally like, she got hung up for like almost an entire page, it felt like, to me, about being called a lesbian, only to then turn around and be like, but I don't hate lesbians. I'm in love with a lesbian. So I also want to play a game. I want to play a little fun interactive game. Okay? When he said that about her, when he said that to her and about her, was he being biphobic or was he being lesbophobic? Ding, ding, ding. Yeah, it was lesbophobic. So it was both, because he's denying part of her identity. I'm not pretending that that's not true. But at the same time, he said a lesbophobic slur at her. And instead of being like, hey, don't say that, maybe, don't act like this, she was like, I'm not one of them. I hate to break it to y'all, but when you're with other women, whether they're also bisexual or pansexual or lesbians, the straight people think you're a lesbian. And that's why you get a lot of the homophobia you get. Biphobia is its own special brand of homophobia that is specific to bisexual people. And I'm not denying it exists. I'm not saying it's not very hurtful and harmful. But in this specific instance, and a lot of instances, it's homophobia. It's okay to say that. And that actually makes your experience really unique, right? You experience homophobia and biphobia, but you could also, if you wanted, ignore your sexuality completely and go about being, straight, but you're not. Like, you just don't tell anybody. And is that denying a huge part of your identity? Yeah. That's why your experience is so unique. You're experiencing all of these things. And they're like real issues and they suck. But like at the same time, I'm kind of like, I didn't really feel like you were actually on lesbian side here because you tacked on at the end, but I love lesbians. Okay, if you say so. And like the bi erasure that's happening is by her husband, who she's leaving. I'm gonna do lipstick quick. And we're gonna talk very briefly while this dries about the difference between being gay but not culturally queer. Also, I have to fix the other side of my eye. It's driving me nuts. Okay, we're gonna spray first and then I'm gonna continue. Now, the reason why I'm saying I'm not surprised that Taylor Jenkins Reid came out as bisexual is because this whole book really reads as like gay but not culturally queer. And it just read as like really, really like somebody who sleeps with people of like the same gender, sex, or whatever, but not somebody who's like about the politics, who's about the culture, who's about all the things that are like deeply important to our rights. And it was Evelyn just doing whatever she wanted for her career and fuck everybody else pretty much. And so like I can't really even say that I'm that surprised, to be perfectly honest with you. And that's okay. Like, I don't know what my bangs are doing now, but okay. And it's like okay to be a baby gay and not know things about the community that maybe, you'll learn with time. But Taylor Jenkins Reid said in her coming out thing that she's been sleeping with, women in the 90s and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so you didn't bother to learn anything about the politics though? You didn't bother to think about maybe the messaging of your book as a whole, and it's just, I'm gonna put my glasses on and this will flatten it. You will see. This is a trick I do when I want my bangs to be flat. I just let them stay under my glasses for a bit and then I'll fix it later. We're gonna hair oil and then we're just gonna get straight talking, I guess. I don't know. Like, I don't know. The optics of this whole book are like off for me. I don't even know if I'm expressing myself like to the fullest extent that I can. And that's another thing that I worry about is like over explaining, because like I have a problem with the book, not bisexual people. And I also feel that bisexual people deserve better representation. And I read some much better representation than this. And I want you guys to know that you deserve better. You deserve better than this half-assed attempt, We're not even partway through my outline. Jesus. Okay. We're going to move on now to the lesbophobia part. And this is another issue, I think, with the whole, like, culturally queer versus just being gay thing. It really shows. And a lot of these issues, actually, I would just like to get on my soapbox, I think could have been fixed if there had been but one other named important character of the same marginalized group to act as like somebody else who can represent what's going on here. But there aren't. Like, Celia is the only important lesbian in the narrative and Evelyn is the only important bisexual in the narrative. So it becomes a problem because there's only one person representing a whole bunch of people, and the book itself isn't very nuanced to begin with. So like it creates a lot of problems. All right, here we go. The lesbophobia issue. We have quite a few different things, but number one is obviously that Celia St. James is kind of portrayed as the mean lesbian who doesn't understand Evelyn. And the thing about this book is that actually, towards the end, Evelyn tells you herself that Celia was not reacting the way she was a lot of times because Evelyn was bisexual. It's because she was treating her like garbage. It's because she was sleeping with people so she wouldn't get found out. It was because she was getting married and doing things that like she wasn't okay with, like Celia wasn't okay with. And also she decided to have, well, we'll get to the baby. The baby is another contentious issue for me. So part of the issue with this also is that she is the only lesbian on page. So again, there's really no one to compare and contrast her to. And a lot of people do talk about how she was portrayed as the mean lesbian. I think Celia should have been meaner. I think based on her feelings about things and the way she was like gaslit and ignored and pushed into this thing that she did not really want, I kind of think she should have been meaner. That's my opinion. So here's another big, huge problem I have with this. She is a lesbian who has to have the bisexual character explain what outing would mean for her as a lesbian versus what it would mean for Evelyn. Like, she wouldn't know during the height of the Red Scare, the Lavender Scare, and the height of butch femme culture. Are you serious? Do you think that Celia's an idiot? Like, be so for real right now. Like, obviously Celia is going to experience the main ramifications from being outed. And the fact that Evelyn is the character that explains that to her, like Celia's an idiot, is annoying to me. She is consistently depicted as naive and idealistic because she wants to get involved with gay rights. She wants to get involved with other gay people. She doesn't necessarily feel that she has to stay in Hollywood if she does. Like, she's okay with giving it up to be herself, and Evelyn is not okay with that. She is also depicted as being biphobic for being uncomfortable with cheating. There is an instance where Evelyn says that she's going to marry some guy. She's going to have like make it look like a whirlwind affair, right? And then she is going to dip, like they're going to get an annulment or whatever. She did not explain to Celia that she was going to sleep with him. So obviously it was very hurtful to Celia that she did. Evelyn felt that that was obvious and that she didn't need to explain it, but not everybody has sex in order to fix their problems, Evelyn. So no, it wasn't that obvious. She's also depicted as being biphobic or being uncomfortable with almost simulated cheating. It's not quite though. So Evelyn is going to be doing a sex scene in a movie with her ex that she was actually in love with. It was her second husband, and he was very abusive to her. He actually hurt her physically and mentally, and she's going to do this. And so instead of asking Celia for permission, they had been together for a long time at this point, she just does it. And then she goes to Celia and is like, so theoretically, if I did this, would you be upset? And Celia's like, yeah, I'm sorry, but that would make me really upset. And then Evelyn's like, oh, but I already did it. Who's the problem here? Not Celia. Also, she is kind of depicted as being biphobic for not being super comfortable with the fact that Evelyn wants a kid. And so she is married to her gay friend Harry at this point, and they decide to do it the natural way. Why? Like, again, Celia's feelings are almost never taken into account for any of Evelyn's decisions, but Celia is the bad one, guys, because she's a lesbian. Obviously, duh. To be clear, there are spaces where she is being biphobic, but writing your only lesbian character as biphobic is a choice that you made, and you didn't stop and think about all of the pieces necessarily. She's also depicted as being unreasonable for wanting to be out, for wanting to be involved when the Stonewall riots are going on, for wanting to be proudly with Evelyn. She is depicted as unreasonable and frankly kind of naive and annoying. And I find that offensive. Like, we've kind of been over this, but I would like to go over it again, that Celia has the most to lose between her and Evelyn, at least until Evelyn actually has a kid. Celia has the most to lose. Her career, her family, everything, literally everything. And like, we're supposed to just pretend that Evelyn is the one who's gonna have the major problems when she's literally said in the narrative that she could just marry a man or bang a man and everyone would be like, oh, she's not a lesbian. Be so fucking for real right now. Okay, we're gonna talk about coming out briefly. Now, this is not me saying that they needed to come out in our modern day sense. I don't think they needed to be explicitly out. That's not what I'm saying. But Evelyn was committed to being with men through a lot of this book in order to hide and to have a successful career and to get all the things she wanted. And also, neither her nor Celia needed to get married. And we're about to go over why. It just feels that the time period was not thoroughly researched, because we have examples that I will now be giving of women who did not necessarily marry men for the reason of hiding who they were. Okay, so the most prominent example in my mind is Greta Garbo. She was possibly bisexual, possibly a lesbian. It really depends on who you ask, but she was with Mercedes de Acosta for quite a long time, and Greta Garbo never married, and it didn't ruin her career. So strike number one for Evelyn. And like, some of these people had rumors they had rumors, but people in Hollywood knew each other were gay. And they didn't care. Like, it didn't ruin their lives most of the time. Like, it just, sometimes yes, but most of the time no. Marlene Dietrich, I think I'm saying that right, was bisexual, and she was also with Mercedes Acosta at one point. Ooh, the sharing back in the day. Didn't ruin her career either. Katharine Hepburn, a friend, attested to her being queer, and I mean, some people say she wasn't, some people, including her friends, say she was. Didn't ruin her career. There were rumors. And someone who is probably as close, in my opinion, to Celia as you could have gotten. Again, Celia didn't have to marry John. This is ridiculous, but whatever. Margaret Lindsay never married. She only dated people that we typically now know were actually secretly gay men. And she had the life partner of Mary McCarty, and she also dated Janet Gaynor. She had like ties to those people. And it didn't ruin her career. It didn't ruin her life. Evelyn was just kind of making stuff up, and I don't feel like the time period was actually researched in the slightest. A lot of people in Hollywood were gay, and they got away with it. Now that we're done that part, I want to talk about the romance. I felt that the romance was not good. I felt that it came out of nowhere, and that it also relied heavily on tragedy. I didn't know that Evelyn had feelings for Celia because she just talked about them hanging out and them like working on scenes together and being seen in public together. And then when someone tells Evelyn that Celia is a lesbian, Evelyn runs off and is like, I gotta get with her immediately. Why? Because she's the first person you heard was queer? This is insane. What do Celia and Evelyn actually love about each other? And what do they actually have in common? I couldn't tell you because there's not a whole lot given in this book. They're both attracted to women and each other. They are both actresses in Hollywood, and that's about it. What else? Other than they're at least white passing. What else? I don't know. We don't know about their hobbies. We don't know about like Celia's life goals. We don't know about the things that make up a life and that make up like happiness together. Like, to me, it didn't feel like at any point they were like, you weren't watching them fall in love. It was like, they're in love because the author said so. And I thought that that was a really wasted opportunity. And I felt really annoyed because I feel like people on TikTok really describe this as like a love story. But other than like the tragedy, is it a love story? I personally would kind of disagree. Which brings us to the bury your gays trope. I'm going to read the definition of bury your gays to you, okay? Okay. A recurrent pattern in the media portrayal of LGBTQ people is that queer characters face tragic fates, including death, much more often than straight characters. Viewers have called this trope bury your gays or dead lesbian syndrome. We're going to talk about it. So, not a single LGBT character, not a single LGBT character in this entire book has a peaceful death. And I honestly feel like a lot of their deaths were actually more about Evelyn's character and Evelyn's story than it actually was necessary. I do not think that the author was thinking very hard about why she was portraying people this way. Like, if your work can get by in the era where the Hays Code, which is what made it so gay people had to have tragic deaths on screen, you should maybe write something else. So John dies of a heart attack. Celia dies of emphysema, which was a long, drawn-out affair, by the way, so yay for us. Harry dies in a car crash in which he drunk drives and crashes, and he also kills the other queer person in the car, which is Monique's father. And then Evelyn at the end commits suicide. Let's all like absorb what I just said to you and think about it for a second. Yeah, and it's not like we weren't having these conversations when this book came out in 2017. We had been having these conversations for a long time. I think the most obvious and biggest conversation was about Lexa dying in the 100. Yeah, so I looked up when that episode about Lexa from the 100 came out, and it came out in 2016. Which was a year before this book came out. We were having like a lot of conversations during that. I remember that very clearly. We were very unhappy. Also, I just fear that if you have to kill off all of your characters in order to make one character who's kind of shitty seem more profound, you're probably not that good of a writer. Alright, so I gave this book 3 out of 5 stars on Storygraph because it wasn't the worst book I've ever read, but it wasn't the best either. The writing is nothing special in my opinion, although people on Book Talk will claim otherwise. I do not agree. I didn't feel anything about these characters, and it just kind of goes to show to me that she really didn't do a great job writing like their character motivations and their deaths in a way that was like compelling to me. If you're looking for a book that has like old Hollywood sapphics and that has a better romance and a better handling of race and sexuality, I think that you should read Siren Queen by Nevo. I keep suggesting this on TikTok, but I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep beating a dead horse. This book is so much better, and I found it mesmerizing. I could not stop reading that book. Please just check out the book. It is marvelous. Tell me what you think about it in the comments when you do, you know, that kind of stuff. If you made it this far, leave a woman in a wedding dress emoji or a diamond ring emoji. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And it really helps the channel, you know, it really helps. I will see you guys in the next one. And also, if you feel so inclined, leave below in the comments if I left anything out, like how you feel about how this book poorly handled some things. I would love to hear more. But until the next one, bye.